Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final session of Real Talk, Real Stories. How lovely to see you all with us today. My name is Shayoni. I am one of the co founders of the Asian Communications Network and the chair of board. I'm delighted to be here with you today, and I'm going to hand over to our guest to introduce himself.
Thank you, Shani. This is Zaid. Looking forward to speaking to all of you today and maybe sharing a few tips, a little bit of myself. Just a little background in what I'm doing at the moment. I've been involved in the comms field, be it in-house and agency side for the last 15 years. Before that, I've been predominantly been working within financial services, technology, public relations throughout, but happy to delve more into it as we go forward.
Lovely to have you with us, Zed. Thank you so much for joining us. As I say, our final session, our final episode of the year. Gosh, all along. How quickly time goes when you're having fun, I suppose. So let me kick off with my first question for you. For people who might not know your story, how would you describe your career journey so far? Maybe in a sentence or two?
I think I would say maybe it was just part of the family legacy. I mean, part of it has been involved since decades. My mom, my brother, they've been in the media side for a very long time, and me being a news junkie, I think it just turned out to be the natural step to take forward, and I think it just played well into all my interests, global
Yeah,
affairs, and me starting my career. To be honest, was in business development.
right.
Um, so I think that passion of getting something and being able to put it out there and getting my interest in geopolitics or global markets and technology is what I focus on. And I think this is a key platform which helps me get all of those in one place.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, you don't often hear about sort of South Asian families coming from the humanities or media. So I'm delighted to hear your family goes back into the media. I was the first in my family to move into humanities all my, everyone in my family, either doctors or scientists or, someone in the sciences. So they were deeply disappointed when I decided to go down the humanities route. But somehow I've circled back into the sciences with, my behavioral science work. So fascinating. So of course you had this family legacy in some ways to kind of um, encourage and inspire you to go into this profession. But was there anything else that kind of attracted you to the wider PR and comms world?
Um, as I mentioned, I think it's got to do with me being a news junkie at the end of the day. I have since a very, and it comes back to why I've just been involved in media or reading a lot about current affairs and so on and so forth from a very early age. And I think it just naturally just brought me towards this angle to delve into. I mean, yeah, I think that's how I would say that my career or passion eventually evolved. I mean, I think it was pretty important the way I looked at it as business development in the beginning of my career. I think it takes your ego out and everything goes out and how you pursue and look for those opportunities. Like, for example, um, kind of focus more lost on media relations, about building those relationships. But I think it's when you're early in your career, the business development, I think it's very key to build those relationship building. And I think people forget like you can be great at what you do in terms of writing and so on and so forth. But I think still day and age, no matter what you do in life, a lot is got to do with relationship building to help you get across the barriers that you might come across.
I mean, couldn't agree more, right? We're in the business of relationships and talking about those early days of your career. What were those early moments that shaped how you showed up at work?
Well, if I was to just get back on how I started, I mean, um, it was been more tech. I was doing market research with Intel in Europe. That was looking after like 80 countries, understanding how things are getting cross. So cross-border cultural impact was pretty early in my career, like looking after 80 countries. Then I moved to IBM, which was again a lot of relationship building, starting off with sales, so it's like C-level executives, and all the way down to the technical aspects of people who you're dealing with. Um, so I think just being able to build and bridge those gaps that you might not have had being in that field before. I think that passion to just execute and get the deal closed brought that excitement in early in your career, because it's literally black and white. I think that's just something which is so black and white in life. Everything else has shades of gray, like what you might write or might you something somebody will might have some feedback. But I think sales is something very black and white in life. Like it's there or not. I mean, you can't change it. You brought it in or you did not bring it in. So I think building up on that with that same passion has helped me evolve into like more on the media relations or getting that high or that thing of get securing great opportunities for my clients where what they're trying to get out. And I think that really brings satisfaction and happiness to me when the clients are being projected in top tier one publications and third party validations are coming across. I mean, anybody can do like sponsor and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
That's that's not the same as getting third party validation for your
Yeah,
client.
yeah, definitely. You can pay to play, but yeah, it and also takes a certain kind of acumen and personality to be energized in a sales environment. So, fair play to you, because that's, it doesn't come naturally to a lot of us in the business. So, looking back again at those kind of early years of your career, did you ever feel like you had to adapt or code switch to fit in? And if you did, what impact did that have on you?
Well, to be honest, I think it's been a fairly smooth journey. I've been keeping in view that I've actually moved to the UK like a little over 4 years ago. Before that, predominantly I was in Pakistan, and most of my professional career has been there. So
Right.
moving from a complete South Asian culture of operating, but thankfully, like I guess it comes back to having the initial studying here and having worked in Europe for a year right in the beginning of my career, um, and then traveled around quite a bit. I think that has been allowed me to have a pretty smooth journey in terms of adjusting here, and grateful that things have seemed to have worked out like smoothly. It's not really been a big barrier in any way that the transition, keeping you just moved here a couple of years ago and
Yeah,
out of a 20-year career. So, I mean, sometimes it does take adjustment, but I'm
yeah.
grateful that it worked out.
Yeah, it is tricky when you're moving mid or late career into a different culture, right? And I was lucky that I moved here, coming on 20 years soon. And I kind of found my career whilst I was here. But yeah, if you are, so that can be tricky. So I'm really pleased to hear that that transition has gone very smoothly for you. So it's a great thing to hear. Um, so let's talk about inspiration. Who or what, other than your family, I suppose, inspired you most when you were starting out?
Ah, that's tricky. I think they're,
Big question.
yeah, it is. And um, it won't be, I guess the press in general and the freedom of speech. It's not related to my financial services, but generally a more holistic view. I think the inspiration is the people who've been at the front lines of many conflicts, risking their lives, getting the word out, no matter what threats they have faced. I think I have not been brave enough to go down that path, but I think being in this field is still an opportunity um, to get the word out of exciting, great companies which are trying to do well or good for the world all over. So I think being in that position, but I think the influence or something of a role model would be those people who've been at the front lines of
Mm.
press in
Yeah,
different parts of the world.
yeah. I think that's a very, very salient point. Back in the day when I was a journalist, my ambition was to be a war journalist. I did not make it into a battlefield. However, I supported research in my very, very early years. When I was back in India, I supported research on media freedom in Pakistan. And that was a really interesting, albeit extremely sobering piece of work to work on, and kind of see those fatalities in black and white of brave, brave journalists risking their lives to get the news in front of us. So yeah, funny you should say that. That kind of took me back to something I haven't thought about in a good while. But yeah, we do owe them our gratitude for risking their life to preserve the freedom of speech.
Yeah, I mean that is a global concern. Like going forward, like globally, I mean I think the freedom of speech is being restricted, be it anywhere from world over, be it the democratic, so-called democratic countries, Western world, but everywhere it's being curtailed this day and age. But obviously, yeah, going back in decades, world over, there's been a fair share of challenges that the press has faced.
Mm-mm. Isn't that right? Well, talking about sort of going back to your career, and not other than the fact that you made a very brave move to the UK from Pakistan, what would you say has been your boldest career move till date, and how did that change things for you?
I think heading over to the to the UK without
Oh,
a,
I'm not counting that. Well, okay, if that it is, no, we'll consider that.
well, there was nothing lined up.
All
So
right.
yeah, so I guess coming up later in your life, you take less chances as well. Like, and then you
Mm-mm.
wrap up everything and decide to move over without a plan, initial plan. Like you hope for the best. I mean, I think that was the,
Spontaneous.
well, I would not really call it. I mean, it was kind of spontaneous in a way, but some people obviously are pretty hesitant, like saying at this day, later stage in life, maybe not so early, just making the move and hoping for the best. So I guess that was probably bold, but thankfully, with some great friends who helped and advised, like how to pursue it, and if I could just add on, like how I decided to move on, like in
Yeah.
that, for people who might be thinking about, at least I was suggested that take up something contractual and part time to get your foot in the door initially, acclimatize yourself or adjust yourself to know that you are working here. So thankfully got into a project for another bank, which was built on for an external comms position. So as a third party consultancy. And I think that kind of paved the way into my next permanent role and then going forward. So I think that was a big step, but I think thankfully it worked out. But I think if anybody's expecting straight away, at least in my opinion, that they'll get into a similar position or a permanent role straight away, I think
Mm.
it's quite extremely challenging.
Mm.
Expectations, right? Or at least that's what I've encountered or faced and realized. And kind of advising some other friends who might have considered same from different regions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's extremely challenging right now. I mean, even if you're here in this country, even if you are, a British citizen or, you're naturalized, you will still, the job market is quite challenging. So that's a fair point. And tell us about where you're working now, Zaid. So tell us a bit more about your job.
Sure. I'm working with Gregory. Gregory, it's actually a US based public relations firm.
Okay.
Um, it's like this, it's been considered the fifth largest in the US on financial services overall, 30th. It's growing pretty big on AI, headquartered in Philadelphia with offices in Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and London here. And it's been there for
Oh,
35 years. So, and it was just considered one of the best places to work in the US for a
wow.
mid-sized
Oh.
firm, yeah. And made the PR agency of the year as well in mid-sized firms.
Wow, wonderful. Well, that sounds great. And if anyone wants to learn more about, where Zed works and, this amazing financial PR agency, you know where to find Zed, or you will at the end of this show. So, next question. Thinking about kind of navigating ambition and cultural or family expectations, especially as an Asian practitioner. Um, has that shifted over time? How have you experienced that? You've obviously had a big spectrum of cultural movement. So how have you experienced that?
Um, I think it's not really been an issue. I think the work-life balance has been pretty good. And obviously, if you're passionate about something, you don't really feel like to be a burden or anything. And occasionally, like odd hours will be something. But otherwise, most of actually, I'll say here has been pretty work-life balance. Back home,
Mm,
back was not really as much work-life balance. That was due to because a lot of crisis care comms was
yeah, yeah.
involved in my, so that
So I
involved.
think, mm,
So I would say it's more work-life balance here, which is better in terms of
yeah,
what I've been through before. But yeah, it's a good
yeah,
learning experience, and happy to be where I am at this point in life in that sense.
wonderful, which is what we like to hear. So great, we've talked about sort of the success and the happiness, which is fabulous. But what has been the toughest moment in your career and what helped you get through it?
Um, well, looking back, I think it was probably be the previous role where I mentioned that odd hours in the crisis was
Mm,
sometimes it can take a toll on a person and reevaluating, is it worth what I'm doing, like
mm,
at the expense of all of that. And so I think that set of like there were a lot of like legal stuff going on like for all different an organization. But I think at some point you do contemplate like, yes, you've had a great run. At which point do you contemplate like,
mm,
do you continue or how will it move forward from here? So I think that was probably one of the set of challenges to contemplate about as
yeah,
being a tough decision.
yeah. I think that's a very fair point, right? I think it is important to consider what's most important to you and what's most important to your, people around you, whether that be your friends, your family. But um, career is a career, job's a job. But you've got to think about what gives you happiness at the end of
Yeah.
the day. Zed, when was the first time you saw someone like you in leadership? I mean, obviously, I'm talking more about your experience in the UK as opposed to necessarily in Pakistan, where there were a lot of people who look like us. But when was the first time you saw someone like you here in the UK, and what impact did that have on you in your career, obviously?
Um, well, if I would say it, I'm not sure if I could, I'm sure I have a lot of flaws and so on and so forth, but if I looked up to somebody here um, as an inspiration, I think it was probably the person who ended up landing me my first permanent role here. It's a very funny, like to be as part of my interview process by the HR at that point. I was told, and normally you don't really hear that such enthusiasm and excitement that you are going to be working with the most amazing individual that I've known in my entire life. And I was like, okay, they're not connected. They work together. She's HR. And
Yeah.
I was like, and I did tell her, I said, that's a pretty bold statement. Like for somebody that it's an organization, yes, they are. She said, you will find out.
Mm,
And when I had the opportunity to connect with the individual who was the owner of the firm, and I would say that 100% I would agree with that person. And that is a very rare statement. I think I've had a
mm,
bunch of interviews in my life, like, different organizations. But so somebody HR to be so enthusiastic and speak so highly, I think that set the motion straight away. Like, automatically
mm.
made me feel like I'm excited to be wanting to be work. Before I kind of had a job, but kind of there, but the final interview with, and I was like, wow, this is inspirational. Like he is an amazing individual. Like and I'm
Oh,
really look forward to be working with this person. It's not
oh,
got to do with me. It's just got to do with the person who had
yeah.
me.
No, it's
But
amazing
it's
to have
a
people
long way.
around you
Like
that value. Sorry.
employees or colleagues speak so highly of the leadership team. Like I think that automatically, and it's natural. It's not like, and I think I would hold true that what she said was true.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Amazing. No, it's really good to be surrounded by inspirational people and role models that you can emulate. So that's fair play to you for finding that connection so fast. Um, what does being part of a community like ACN mean to you personally, Zaid?
I think it's been a great opportunity, and I'm really glad AC Universe has been got set up, being able to connect with other like-minded individuals who are trying to stay their path in this competitive world. And I think it's that ability to network with people, interact, have some great speakers as ACN has been having, and getting that opportunity to listen to them, I think it's really tells you like you're not alone. Like in this crazy, challenging world, a lot of people are out there, and you get a lot of support if you reach out to the right places. People are willing to help you out, and I think ACN has been a great platform to champion those for everybody who's looking for a certain direction. And I think ACN has gone out in ways different paths in supporting that, be it in any advice or channel talks or these opportunities like these. Um, people being able to share their stories and connect with others who might be in similar positions. So I think it's a great platform, and I can only wish it all the best and going forward to expand to get more and more people who should be joining it.
Oh, thank you. As a co-founder, that makes me very happy, and we're delighted to have you in our network, of course. Um, if you could shape the future of comms for the next generation, what would you want it to look like? Big question.
Yeah, I don't know if I can change the future of comms, but what I would suggest to them is really get into understanding the role of AI that is going to be playing if
Mm,
you don't want to be left behind. You cannot discount the influence that is having in comms, and I guess comms is eventually slash public relations eventually in the bigger holistic view. There's going to be so much disinformation out there. Being able to figure that out, what you're getting out is actually factually even or not, because I think there's a very fine line being developed in figuring out what is reality anymore, be it from
mm,
be it videos or just the general disinformation on all kinds of media platforms out there. There's one point and counterpoint, and it's becoming quite difficult as a role of media to distinguish between that. So I think they should really become on hand with the role of AI is going to be playing and
mm.
even going to be playing in media relations or in comms or marketing going forward.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, of course, I talk about misinformation all the time, but yes, the role of synthetic media and the plausibility it gives actors to engage in false narratives with such confidence and authenticity. It's something that we have to be very, very aware of as communicators. But we don't have time to get into my favorite topic of disinformation today, so we shall hold on that. And I will ask you my final question before we close, which is, what is one piece of advice you'd give to someone watching today who feels like they don't belong?
When you say they don't belong, in what sense would that
They
be?
don't
Just
belong
to
in terms of a community, right? So, I think where we've heard from colleagues like yourself in ACN is it's been great to find a community where they do belong, where they find people who look like them, who have shared experiences, shared cultures. So, you might be speaking to someone who is not part of a network like ours. It doesn't have to be an Asian colleague,
yeah,
but they might feel a little lonely. They might feel like they don't quite belong. And so, what would your advice be to them?
I think they should not hesitate to reach out. I think they would be surprised at the amount of people are willing to help if they are approached. I think um, people probably are hesitant or feel like how would it be perceived if I'm looking out for any kind of support, be it professional or personal or whatever. I think they would be surprised that the amount of people are willing to go out of the way and help out. There is still a lot of nice humanity here, empathy around the world, still there, irrespective of how things might look. Um, but I think there's a fair share of nice people out there who are going to be there for you, and just reach out simply.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't
I
hesitate.
think that's a really, yeah, very, very good closing thought. Um, Before I ask you for your social handles and where people can connect with you, Zed, do you want to share some final thoughts, any final reflections as we close the final episode of Real Talk, Real Stories?
I just would like to say that I'd like to wish everybody a great 2026, and I hope everybody, whatever new Year resolutions they're making, I know most of them never come true, especially for me, tried and tested for the last 40 years. Nothing has happened, but I wish them that they all come true and everybody has a great Christmas and a happy New Year. And thank you for having me on this. Yeah,
That
thanks.
absolutely right. We do wish our listeners, viewers, community, colleagues, allies, a wonderful festive break. And a wonderful new year. And before we end today, Zed, where can people find you?
I think the best way to connect with me is on my LinkedIn, and I would just search for Zaid Haroon, as it says on my thing, and I'll be happy to connect with whoever would like. And please feel free to reach out for anything that I can do.
Amazing. Well, on that note, and reiterating our festive wishes to you, our listeners, viewers, community, and to yours, I hope you have the best festive break if you do manage to switch off, and a wonderful 2026. Thank you, Zed, for joining us, and we shall see all of you in the new year. Bye.
Bye.